Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. I am Dee, and today I have the beautiful Laura with me. Laura, thank you so much for being my guest today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I'm so excited to reconnect with you. We were talking in the pre-chat about I met you at an event, a psychic fair event, and now here we are.
Yes. So I do those psychic fairs. We do several in the state of Florida throughout the year. That's Experience Psychic Fair, and they're all over the state now, down as far south as Sarasota and up in Tallahassee, and those go very well. It's great. It's great that we have them in the state. Before I started reading for Suzanne at Experience Psychic Fair, I was gonna start one in St. Augustine. I live in St. Augustine just because we need them. We need
Yeah,
them. We need it. Not only is it just the opportunity for people to go and get guidance and explore different modalities and different ways of thinking and believing, it's education, and
yeah.
that's the most important part of it.
Yeah. So, as far as the education piece of it, would you like to elaborate on that a little more? How people are getting educated at these fairs?
So we do lectures, and everybody has their own spiritual gifts, and that's another reason to go to those psychic fairs or spirit fairs and talk to people because you learn so much. Everybody has their spiritual gifts that they bring to the table. Everybody has special knowledge that they bring to the table. So those days, both days, Saturday and Sunday, they're weekend events, are filled with lectures. Like whoever wants to can do a lecture, and they talk about whatever it is that they're into, and a lot of crystals and divination and mediumship and how to connect with spirit. Meditation is a huge deal. Um, some people are Reiki masters, so they'll talk a little bit about that. I'm a tarot reader. That's my jam. So I do a lecture about tarot reading as well.
That's awesome. And we were talking at the fair about how you do your tarot. So would you like to tell people how you do your tarot? Because I know people do it differently.
Everybody does it differently, and everybody has a kind of a different take on how spirit speaks to them. And I think that's true. I think spirit does speak to us in very unique and individual ways. But for me, spirit has always spoken to me through the cards. I learned about 25 years ago out in Oklahoma. Same thing. I was going to fairs myself, and the organizer for that fair was teaching a tarot class workshop. And I was like, I got to do that. And I don't even know why. Honestly, who knows why you're attracted to things? But I do think that you become attracted to the things that are going to help you in your spiritual journey. Excuse me. So I feel like when I do a tarot reading for someone, I have a spirit team, the divine, pure white light, God, whatever you want to call it, the universe, angels, archangels, passed on loved ones, spirit guides, all of this whole team to me is working together with your team to bring you those messages. And that's just how I view it. So your spirit team is always invited into the reading. Um, I love how they just interact with each other and talk to each other and bring you the exact message that you need at that time.
That's beautiful. And you do more traditional, because you've been traditionally trained, correct, in tarot?
I was traditionally trained, and I was trained on the Rider Waite deck or the Universal Waite deck, which to me is kind of like the Bible when it comes to tarot. These were developed in the early 1900s, I think. There was an organization over in England called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and they really did spiritual people, even if you're not into tarot, a huge favor because they went back and they studied all the old ways, everything that they could find, like from ancient Greek, uh, the Norse, the Nordic traditions like the runes and the Kabbalic, the Jewish mysticism. They just went back and studied everything that they could find, and they documented what they found, which was a huge, like it's a huge um, resource for spiritual people today. So there were three decks that came out of that group, and one of them was the Rider Waite deck, and it is by far the most popular. I think probably 90 to 95% of decks that have been developed since then are modeled off of that Rider Waite deck. And it's 78 cards. It has 22 major arcana cards, 56 minor arcana cards, and the 22 major arcana are like your spiritual big jobs or the milestones in your life, the big things that are going on in your life. And then the 56 are everyday cards and people cards. And in that whole deck of 78, this is why it's such a powerful tool for practical everyday guidance. In that whole deck, there's every situation that a person could come in contact with, really, in their life. It's all in those cards. So I do use that. I teach that. I teach a workshop once a month in at the Mystic Light Center in St. Augustine, and I teach the Rider Waite. And I do think that that is the foundation for reading tarot if that's what you want to do. A lot of people aren't into it. They like the oracle cards better, which are that's fine. But oracle does not have a traditional meaning. That's going to be whatever the author wants those cards to mean.
Right.
Tarot has a traditional meaning, a universally understood meaning for the cards. So it is a language kind of in itself.
Yeah, it is. And I've not been traditionally trained in tarot. I read strictly intuitively. And I know there are people who kind of combine the two where they do the traditional and the intuitive. So, how do you feel about that?
Well, you do. So you did, and one of the great things about starting out is having that traditional standard meaning for each card because it helps you to just start learning the symbols in the cards, start learning the cards, start learning how to piece together a reading or a story. Most people start by reading for themselves. And so you know what's going on in your life. So that's an easy way to start learning those simple symbols. And it's great to have that standard meaning. When you, after you've been reading for a while, the intuition starts to take over. And all of the cards, each card has probably one major meaning and then layers and layers and layers of meaning underneath that. So
Yeah.
the intuition comes into when you're pulling the card, what are you being drawn to? That's where the intuition comes in because that's, or if you pull a card and you immediately think one meaning, that's your intuition telling you that's what this means in this particular spread for this person.
Yeah. It's very individual, isn't it? Because the same card can tell a different story from one person to the next, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell people it's so tempting if you read tarot cards, when you go to get a tarot card reading from someone else, to try to interpret what's happening in that tarot reading, but you just can't do that because those symbols are being shown to that tarot reader from the divine so that they can piece together a story. It's a message for them. They're the channel. So even if you are a tarot reader and you're going to get a tarot reading and they pull a card, what you're meaning for it is not going to be the same as what their meaning is.
Right. Well, that makes sense because sometimes we need to hear something in a different way for us to be able to shift and change something that's going on in our life. And those messages aren't always comfortable.
I cannot read for myself. I pull cards every day, all day for all kinds of crazy stuff. But when it's important and when I really need a reading, I have to go to someone else because I get too emotionally attached to the outcome. And I will continue to pull cards until I find the card that I want. So it's just true. It's just true. So I have to go. I have to go get readings too. And I love it. I enjoy it. I love that we all read so differently. Um, and it's like a person, it's a personal journey for sure. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. And I feel like like I listen to a lot of podcasts and different things like that to help me with my personal development. I don't listen to as many as I used to. When I was going through my dark night of the soul, I was consuming content like crazy because I needed help to get myself stronger so that I could get out of the situation I was in. But I find that listening to different people, they can say the same exact thing, but they say it in a different way and it resonates with you in that moment that you hear it. So I think it's really kind of important to go and get readings from different people. You're going to get a different message.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to get the message that you need to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So you mentioned spirit guides, your team, their team. Are you also a medium?
Some people tell me I do. I do. I will say this. I've been doing the tarot reading for 25 years, and I do kind of get caught up in the terminology a little bit. It's like, I mean, I am psychic, but I don't even say I'm psychic because everybody's psychic. What does that
Right.
even mean? You know,
Right.
people tell me I'm a medium, but not. I guess I'm not a medium in any way that, like, not a John Edward medium, or not the medium that I go see in Casa Dega. So I get caught up in the terminology. I'm not sure exactly what a medium is. I have a book about it. Maybe I need to crack that open. But I do not call myself a medium. No, I call myself an intuitive tarot reader. I don't even, sometimes I'll say psychic, but not very often. There's something about the terminology that really trips me up.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I'm kind of a anti-label person, if you want to call it anti as well, because I feel like we say these things and then people get all these preconceived notions in their heads about what it means to them, and it
Right.
may or may not fit what's actually going on with you, and our interpretations are different. I feel like if we're interacting with spirit in that way, we are aware that we have a team and spirit guides and angels, and you can actually see and hear and feel the interaction between your team and someone else's team that you're reading for. To me, that is mediumship. But a lot of people may not look at it that way. And that's
Yep.
okay. I feel like we get, like you said, so attached to these words that we want them to mean a certain thing, and that may not necessarily be all there is to it.
Right. I do know that I'm a channel, and that is what I am doing when I do a tarot reading. I am channeling messages from the divine for other people.
Yeah,
And that's the intention that I set, that I be a clear channel for these messages for people, because I think it's really important. And I help people, and that is such a good feeling. Like when someone comes to you and they sit in that chair and they're really going through something, and they're, just maybe upset and a little bit lost, to
yeah,
be able to provide that guidance for them is a really, really good feeling. And they're smiling when they walk away from the table. It's just a gift. It really is.
it is. And do you find that people that sit down that have fear and anxiety around having a reading walk away without
Oh,
those feelings?
almost beyond it. I love the skeptics. I really do. Yeah, they almost always walk away feeling better, and feeling like everything's going to be okay, and armed with information that helps them with their daily life. And that's just what it's all about. That's the most important thing. But I want to go back to the skeptics. So you will have people that sit down at your table and they say they're skeptical, which I don't have a problem, because I feel like I'm a skeptic. If
Right.
I go to get a reading from somebody, I want to hear something that resonates with me before I know that you know what you're talking about.
Yep.
So I have no problem with that. Some people think they're skeptic and they're really closed off, and that you cannot read. You just can't. I mean, I have been able to crack them, in the end. If you can get them to relax, which is what they're resisting. So if you can get them to relax, somehow that barrier just breaks down and you can get through and get a reading to them. But if they're really closed off, it's just, you just can't read them.
Yeah. I'm sitting here listening to you say that, and I'm wondering if that's not what happened with an older gentleman that I did a reading for one time. Because and this is what's interesting. I'll tell you this story. I laid the cards out and I started reading for him. And even to my own ears, like, I'm like, what? This just doesn't make sense. Nothing felt like it was flowing or anything like that. And I could even tell by the look on his face, he was like, this girl is completely full of crap. She doesn't know what she's talking about. It's not making any sense. And I was like, I don't know what is happening. I'd never had an issue reading for someone before. So this was like a foreign feeling to me. And then all of a sudden, his mom popped over his left shoulder. And I looked at him. I'm like, does your mom have brown hair? Kind of like these big curls, and he's like, yeah. And he said, but my mom passed away. I can't remember how many years ago it had been, but it had been decades. And I said, well, it doesn't matter how long ago she crossed over. People can show up anytime, you know? And as soon as that interaction happened, everything just completely flowed. It's like he knew then
He took
that
down the barrier.
he took down that barrier, and it was absolutely incredible. But I never even thought about it being him being closed off until you just
Yep.
said that.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Because we all have free will. We all have free will. So if even if he sits down and there's some part of him that wants to have a reading, there's a stronger part of him that does not. So he's closed off. There's no way you're going to penetrate that. There's no
Yeah.
way. And I have learned to just say, I'm sorry. For some reason, I am not picking up on your energy. I think you would be happier to go see another reader. You would probably be better off to go see another reader. And there's nothing wrong with that. And
Right.
then there's another situation where sometimes your energies do not mesh. Like you're not going to be a good reader for them because your energies are just such a mismatch. So I've had that happen too. It's very rare that you can't read somebody, but I've learned to be okay with it when you can't.
Right.
At first it was very hard. It's like, what's wrong? What's going on here? It's usually
Yeah.
so easy. What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? You know
Right.
how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always the first place we go, isn't it? That we're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
wrong. And sometimes it has nothing to do with us. It's just some, and I heard somebody say something one time that sometimes it's not, um, it's our energy that's being protected when we're
Uh-huh.
not
Yes.
able to do that,
Yes.
so
Yep.
and that I feel like that's a pretty profound realization to have as well, that we're being protected for whatever reason it is. That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's all very fascinating. It's been a fascinating journey. And another reason that I like tarot is it's a continuous unfolding. It's you just learn more and more all the time. And I do read a lot still about tarot. I will part of the reason that I don't like those labels like medium and psychic and all that stuff is it sounds so arrogant. But I will say that I am a master tarot reader because I don't know anybody that has studied it as hard as I have, that's done it as long as I have. It's just so I am arrogant enough to say that I'm a master tarot reader.
I don't really consider it to be arrogance, though, and I know a lot of people do. But if you're good at something, there is absolutely nothing wrong with owning that you're good at it. It's not like you're going, I'm the best, I'm the only one that can do that's now that would be arrogance.
Right,
You're
right, right,
just
right.
simply owning the fact that you've studied this and you've done it, and you have all this experience with it, and you're really good at it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel there is. There are some people out there that feel that there's something wrong with that, but I don't feel like there's a.
Listen, we all have our talents and skills. We all have our things that we're good at.
Yeah, we do. Like I'm a twisted wire artist, and I know I'm really good at what I do. I also know there are some really talented other people that are really good at twisted wire art. So I don't profess to be the best at it. I just know that I'm good at it. And we get to say that, you know.
Yes.
We need to make that something that is widely accepted for us to be able to love ourselves enough to recognize what we're good at and what we're not good at.
Like,
Yeah. So you said you read a lot about tarot. You're constantly reading about it. What books or material would you recommend for people to read
okay,
about?
I'm glad you asked that. So like I said, I do teach the workshop, and so when I learned that workshop that I took 25 years ago, it was only just an afternoon, but she taught the major meanings for each card and then a couple other meanings. And that's how I teach it too. Just learn the major meanings first, and you can start from there. So she taught that, and then I just spent so much time in Barnes and Noble in that what used to be called, what was it called? I think it's called self actualization now, or self transformation or something like that. It used to be a new age section, I think. But I would spend so much time in Barnes and Noble reading as much as I possibly could. You know how they let you take a book and go to the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So I would do that for years and years and years. Uh, and it got a little confusing because there is a lot of stuff about tarot out there, and there are different philosophies about it, and it does get a little confusing. And then I found this book, Tarot Plain and Simple. It is the it is almost exactly the way I read. I almost exactly. I do have notes in this book where I differ from this one. But this is kind of like the Bible for me. It's what I teach in my workshop. Tarot, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Just it's just the basics.
It's just simple. I love that you say that you put notes in there where your reality is different than what is in the book, because I think that's really, really important. And I tell people that, no matter what you read or who you listen to, take what resonates with you and leave what
Yes,
doesn't, because our perception is very individual. So we have to, give ourselves permission to do that and not, take on someone else's stuff that doesn't really resonate with us.
that's right. And I kind of look at it like religion. I studied a lot of religions before I figured out what it was that I believed. But I call myself a Unitarian. I kind of embrace all religions, but I just kind of pick and choose. This resonates with me. This is my truth. This is my truth. And you could almost write your own Bible from all the different beliefs that you have. It's the same way with this tarot book. You're gonna learn different things from other people about tarot. You're gonna read different things from other people, read different books about tarot. So you just take the bits and pieces of it that are your truth and create your own thing. But as far as just one book, this is as close as I have come to finding a book that that is almost exactly what I think about tarot and believe about tarot.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So hopefully people that are interested in tarot will pick that book up and
Yes.
learn a
Yeah.
lot more about it.
I get no kickbacks from this guy, Anthony. I get no kickbacks, but
Maybe you should contact him, see if he has an
maybe I
affiliate
should.
link.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so funny. So I had another question and it just went right out of my head. Holy crap. Oh, I was going to ask you about your readings. So, do you only do readings at psychic fairs, or do you do personal readings locally, or how does that work for you?
I do personal readings locally. I just put my business on Yelp. I got and claimed the Google business and stuff. I did one of my favorite things to do, and it's easy to do around here in St. Augustine, is parties because people will come down from the north and do those rentals for those beach rentals, like for a bachelorette party or a girlfriend's getaway or something, and they will find me um, through local advertisement or just Googling or whatever.
Yeah,
And I do parties for them. I do individual readings all the time, and that the psychic fairs are a good way to advertise that, to let people know that I can do video readings, and so they'll contact me that way. But yeah,
that was going to be my one of my next questions is if you do it over the internet, so anyone anywhere can access you to have a
yes,
reading. Perfect. That's awesome. So I'd like to dive into the party thing a little bit because that's something I've been curious about. I know people do that. Do you do just like mini readings? Because I know
it's
you
many
won't have
readings.
time to really do a whole full reading for everybody at a party, depending on how people are there, how many people are there.
Yeah, I charge like $200 for six, and then 40 for each additional. But almost six readings is going to be between 2 and 4 hours, depending on how long each reading is. Um, so that's almost as much as you can get through in an
Yeah.
evening. Um, so far, I do the same as I do at the psychic fair, which is a modified version of the Celtic cross, which is the most popular spread for a tarot reading. It takes a long time. That's why I do a modified version of it. So it's just a little bit shorter reading. Takes about 15 to 20 minutes to do a tarot reading, sometimes 30, if it's a pretty intense one. So you can, I mean, I haven't modified it too much for the party. And I could do more mini readings if the like I would talk to the organizer of the party and see what they were wanting, how much time they wanted their guests to spend away you know, from the gang.
Right. So
But
when you
it's such a personal treat for your guests. And I think that's why they're so popular because, each one gets their own individual attention, their own individual reading, and then they come back together and they all talk about what their readings was. It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you have just like a little quiet corner or do you
Yeah.
go into a separate room or how does that work?
But it depends on who's doing the party. There will be some place, and I request some place away from everybody else because you never know what's going to come up in a reading. You never know. There can be some really personal things come up, and you just don't want everybody to overhear what's going
Right.
on. Up to them whether they want to tell other people
Exactly.
or not.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that so much. So is that like what is your preference or do you care? Do you have one preference over another as far as personal or parties?
No, I love it all. I do. I love it all. And I also do a YouTube channel. I haven't been able to do it as often. I do get my monthlies out, like for each sign, what's coming up for the month. I have a friend that requested that I do a Chinese New Year reading today, so I'll do that on my YouTube channel. But I also like to do those because that's just another level of fun. Because when I sit down and do a reading with someone one on one, I'm going to use tarot, and I'm basically going to use the Rider or the Universal Weight tarot, um, because that is like the foundation. That's I know it inside and out. It's that's it. That's the Bible. But when on my YouTube channel, I will pull in a bunch of oracles, and so a lot of oracles actually. It's not personal. It's not a one-on-one reading. It's for the collective. So it's a little looser, and you can have more fun with it and pull the oracles in and take it in different directions. So that's fun too.
Yeah. So could you expand a little more about the tarot deck that you use? Because I'm not sure, like I don't fully understand what the language is that you're using about that. So I'd love for you to share so people can understand that a little more deeply.
Okay, so again, that group, that Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, there were three, the Thoth Tarot, which is another popular tarot, the Rider Waite Tarot, and then the Golden Dawn Tarot. They were encouraged to create their own tarot cards. So that's one of the things that they did in that organization. The Rider Waite was written by author Edward Waite. He was a member of that group. Um, the publisher, I can't remember his first name was, but the last name was Ryder. So that's how it became the Rider Waite deck. 100 years later, they created a centennial deck for the Rider Waite and called it I think it's the Waite Coleman Smith. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the Rider Waite deck, but finally gives credit to Pamela Coleman Smith, who was the artist
Oh,
on the
wow.
original deck from the 1900s. She was in that group as well, but for some reason was not given credit for doing the artwork on those. Okay, so that original Rider Waite deck it's in the public domain now. And that's one of the reasons that it's kind of used so much because people can take it and use it how they want to and modify it. The universal weight it's more brightly colored. And that's why I use the universal weight. It's still that same, the pictures, the images are still the same as the Rider Waite and the original that Pamela Coleman Smith drew or painted or whatever. It's just more vibrant in the color.
Wow.
So
Cool.
I think Arthur Edward Waite I think he might have had some Jewish ancestry or something. So he definitely was studying the Kabbalah mysticism. And that there is a lot of, of Kabbalic symbolism in the Rider Waite deck, but there's symbolism from other places too. So it's just really, really fascinating.
That is
And
fascinating.
to me it is it is the most popular for sure. That's just true.
I'll have to check it out.
Which do you read, tarot or oracle?
I do both, actually. I have two oracle decks. My very first deck was a fairy oracle deck, and I got it probably about 15 years ago when I was in North Carolina, and I got it out and played with it. First of all, I was really scared because I was raised Pentecostal. So I thought,
Oh yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
if I
We talked
wasn't
about
going to hell before, I'm going to hell for sure. Now I got an oracle deck. Holy crap. I'm destined. I'm destined to burn forever. Anyway, I got it out and I did play with it some, but I started doing readings for myself and I felt like it was only telling me what I wanted to hear, kind of like what you said, you have a difficulty reading for yourself, right? And so I felt like it was only telling me what I wanted to hear. So I got really frustrated with it because I wanted guidance. I didn't want to be pacified. I wanted guidance. So I put it up and I didn't look at it again for years, actually, until we moved into this house about a year and a half ago. And I got it out and started, you know, getting to know it again.
uh-huh.
And my relationship with that deck is entirely different now. I know a lot of people will say that oracle decks are very gentle and they really kind of give you this gentle guidance and it's very positive, but that hasn't been the case with me. My fairy oracle deck has really given me some like these come to Jesus moments,
Yes, yes, yes.
where I've had to, take a deeper look at myself. So that's been my experience with it. But and I don't have issues reading for myself because when my decks need to tell me something, they do. You need to take a deeper look at this, quit procrastinating, pay attention, these kinds of things. I get those messages. So, but I haven't really had a tarot reading from someone else yet, honestly, and I would love to do that. So maybe that opportunity will come up soon.
Call me anytime.
Yeah, maybe we could do an exchange. That would be fun.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I my tarot deck is more, it's the Shadowscapes tarot deck, so it's very artistic, very flowy, very pretty. It's not like I've looked at some of the older, more traditional decks, and they're very almost like the words by the book come into my head when I'm thinking about what they look like compared to what my
That's
deck.
pro that's probably some truth. There's probably some truth to that. And one of the reasons that I always use the universal way when I'm doing a reading for someone is because there's so much symbolism in here
Mhm.
that you can't get from other tarot decks. And I will also say about this about the tarot decks. Some decks will say that it's tarot, but it's really an oracle in a tarot format because to me it has to follow these basic meanings. It can deviate a little bit. Like I have a druid Celtic deck that deviates a little bit just because their philosophies are different from the Jewish Kabbalic, right? So, and that's okay. That's still tarot. It still has those major meanings, you know. But a lot of tarot cards, if they don't, they deviate too much. It's really oracle. It's really what that author thinks or wants the messages that that author wants to get across as opposed to the traditional meanings. They're cool. I love
Yeah.
them. I have some myself, but they are not tarot.
Yeah. That makes sense. I never really thought about that before, but that does make sense to me that it would be a little more flowy and flowery instead of that
Yeah.
kind of structured
Yeah.
traditional tarot.
Yeah.
I have to get me a book, the book that you suggested, and read up on it because I think that would just, and I think that I think that would enhance my practice, is what I was going to say. So I can
It
complete
can
that thought right there.
only it can only help to learn that. To me, it's like cooking. Cooking is a
Yeah,
craft.
it is.
That you have to know certain skills to be able to cook. And then once you get those skills down, then you can get more creative and bring other things in and mix it up a little here and there. But you have to learn the foundation first. And to me, that's what the tarot is. It's the foundation.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. I love it. I love this. I just and I love that you love reading because I love it too. I love the interactions with people and seeing the reactions that they have to the readings. I can feel that from you how much you love that also.
I really, really do. Really, I really enjoy it. Well, the moment that I don't enjoy it anymore is the moment I quit. I just
Right.
stop. Just not doing it.
Yeah, that's beautiful too. I love that you recognize that in yourself.
Yeah.
So, well, do you have any last tidbits that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Um, I would say just do it. If you really want to learn tarot, absolutely do it. It is just recognize that it's a lifelong journey. Then you will continuously learn. And I preach learn the foundation, learn the universal way, learn the Rider way. You have to learn those traditional meanings. That's just the way I believe. I know other people do not believe that, but if
That's
you want to
okay.
learn tarot, if you want to learn tarot, some people don't want to learn tarot. They want to read oracle cards. And there's plenty of people at the psychic fair that just read oracle cards. And that's totally fine too, if that's what you want to do. But if you want to learn tarot, I feel like you should learn it the right way. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. You get to have that, right? We all do.
Yes.
We get to give ourselves permission to actually have an opinion. That's
Thank
so
you for
awesome.
inviting me. This is fantastic. It's been a lot of fun to talk
Uh,
about it. I like talking about it for sure.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's been an awesome conversation. I would love for you to share, and I'll put your links in the description box below the video, but I'd love for you to share with people where they can find you if they would love to have a reading from you.
So for a reading, they can reach out through email is going to be best. sandytotero@gmail.com.
Okay,
That's
perfect.
the best way to get a hold of me for anything. And then if you want my link to the YouTube, I'll send that to you and whatever you want, we can talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of Spiritually Speaking. Until next time, I love you all. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.